Alright, let's talk about the F word. And by that I mean, of course, F1, Formula 1. We're going to be looking at what's changed over the years, the cars, the rules and regulations, the race structures, the tactics, and more. And to be quite frank, why I've kind of lost interest in it all. So stay tuned. You may or may not know that I went to the Las Vegas Grand Prix last year, to the practice night with my buddy Mr. Molesworth. It was the first Formula 1 event I'd been to since the inaugural Grand Prix in Texas back in 2012. I have to say it was quite fun and interesting on many levels for an old git like me, not least of all being the cars themselves and how much they have changed over the decades. Pretty much over the years, since probably the mid-80s, the cars have increased in size quite dramatically. But more than that, they just kind of all look the same, honestly. And maybe that's me not paying enough attention to detail. And that's probably got a lot to do with rules and regulations, which of course have got more and more complicated over the years. I understand and appreciate a lot of this is to do with safety, and I don't have anything against that. Really, before the 1980s, the cars were pretty much death traps. The numbers vary, but I found some information on the BBC. And in the 1960s, no fewer than 29 drivers were killed, and the 70s, 18. And thanks to people like Jackie Stewart and other drivers who got involved, this was changed quite radically and quickly. Anyway, on a cheerier note, let's look at the cars. It wasn't the first time, but it was kind of the late 50s when Cooper put the engine in the middle of the car and everyone else pretty much followed suit. And in the early 60s, Colin Chapman came up with the monocoque chassis design. He's going to crop up a lot. Essentially bolting the engine onto the back of a cockpit and hanging everything else off the engine. Why not? It's a big solid lump of iron. And then in the late 60s, things started getting really crazy. Was it Chapman again? I don't know. Wings. Crazy wings. Hanging at least 3 foot in the air above the car to get clean air that was undisturbed by the car itself. Firstly at the rear and latterly at the front as well. Flimsy structures that had the propensity to destroy themselves quite quickly, which probably a little bit dangerous. This is the most ridiculous one I could find on a Brabham BT26, I believe it is. Yes, can't imagine that was very effective. But anyway, that all got taken into control and things were tightened up on the rules and regulations about wings, so they had to be fixed directly to the structure of the car. Much more sensible. And from there on in, pretty much everyone has employed wings of some shape or form, especially at the rear. However, it was the 70s. People had different ideas about how to go about things. And some people preferred the idea of, let's call it an air dam, covering the entire front of the car, improving airflow over the front wheels. Well, at least that was the idea. And that's why, for me, I think the 70s were the most interesting years of Formula 1 car development, in that people were trying totally different things to gain some kind of advantage over the competition. Some of which got quite ridiculous. We'll come to that later. And then Mr. Chapman came along again. Yes, he was a bit of a troublemaker. He decided to put the radiators near the back of the car, down the side. Plenty of room, less pipage involved, pumping water back and forth. Altogether a sensible idea. And what that meant was an extraordinarily aerodynamic front nose. Yeah, the amazing Lotus 72, arguably one of the most successful ever Formula 1 cars, campaigning for over 5 seasons, multiple driver and constructor championships under its belt. The other thing that made the 70s kind of interesting was that, with the exception of Ferrari and Matra, all the cars used the full DFV. Everyone used Goodyear tyres. So with essentially the same power plant and the same mechanical grip, there was everything to play for. And in terms of engine performance, having got rid of the ludicrous wings, we had ludicrous airboxes instead, employed to funnel air into the motor in the most efficient way, or not, maybe, looking at some of them. But yeah, it all got a little bit crazy, and then later it got a little bit more refined again. The most elegant of which probably is the Ferrari, beautiful Formula 1 car. They decided to scoop it out the front of the cockpit and down the sides. Much more sensible. And then came the craziest of all. And no, it wasn't Mr. Chapman, it was Mr. Tyrrell, or Mr. Gardner to be precise, the designer of the car. Yes, the incredible six-wheel Tyrrell, one of my all-time favourites, just because it's so totally out there. I always imagined that the four front wheels was all about getting more mechanical grip from four wheels rather than just two, but actually it wasn't. In fact, quite the opposite. I think they struggle for grip. The idea was to improve that airflow over the front end again. By having smaller wheels, they could have a lower front air dam and scoop the air over the top of the wheels with minimal disruption. It didn't quite work because, as I say, they struggled for grip, so they had to widen the front end, and so the wheels stuck out the side. So yeah, it was kind of flawed from the start, but I mean, just what an amazing way of going about things and coming up with something totally ludicrous. March and Williams tried it later with putting four wheels at the back rather than at the front, but neither of those were very successful. 10 out of 10 for creativity. And then towards the end of the decade, everything got turned on its head. Literally. Yes, it's that pesky Mr. Chapman again. He decided to take the whole wing idea, turn it upside down, and put it under the car, effectively making the majority of the vehicle one huge upside down wing, creating downforce, not lift, by channeling the air using skirts to keep it in the tunnel. Saw a video about its development, and again, this is what I love about this era. Apparently a lot of the testing was done out in the back of a Renault 4 van at the Hethel circuit in Norfolk, Lotus headquarters, and yeah, so was born Ground Effects, and potentially therein lies the start of the rot in terms of everything looking the same. Although the 78 was the first to employ it, the Lotus 79 annihilated the competition. Nobody stood a chance without Ground Effects. So they had to follow suit, they had to copy it, and that's exactly what they did. So we ended up with a whole field of Lotus 79s, black ones obviously, blue ones, white ones, yellow ones, etc. With the exception of Gordon Murray and his fan car. Anyway, more rules and regulations, skirts banned, Ground Effects out. And from there on in, that kind of crazy innovation that the 70s saw just got regulated out, bit by bit. Wait, what? We seem to be stuck in the 70s. Yes, hang in there, we will be moving on. But it was my favourite era because of all the craziness. And it wasn't just about the cars. God no. Yeah, don't bring those back. Yeah, the fashion was terrible. Anyway, it was more than that. It was about the people, the teams. The fact someone like Ken Tyrrell could actually build a car in a shed and win a world championship with someone like Jackie Stewart. Other privateers like Hesketh could nurture a driver like James Hunt with just a handful of people helping, honestly. It still required a lot of money. I mean, in those days it was probably $500,000, right? Which in this day's money is about 8 million. But in this day and age, you need 10 or 20 times that, which is an awful lot of money. Putting it out of reach of any mere mortals, just on the off chance that they want to start a Formula 1 team. Apart from the likes of Elon Musk, maybe. God help us. And then aside from the teams, there were just private entries. I remember Hector Raback in a Lotus 79. They just bought himself a car and went racing. And then there was the drivers. They weren't particularly fitness freaks, as we can tell from the aforementioned James Hunt. Despite the fact that he was British, I was never a big fan, apart from the fact that he was just a character. And to be totally frank again, the only other drivers that have come close to that are probably like Eddie Irvine, who drove for Ferrari, and someone else, I can't remember, and Kimi Raikkonen, my last favourite F1 driver, honestly, for some of the right reasons. He had a lot of talent, he was very quick, and for some of the wrong reasons, he just couldn't be bothered to put up with all the corporate BS and the TV, and he just enjoyed what he was doing, and he was damn good at it. So then what happened? Well, towards the end of the 70s, there was this funny little French team. No, not Ligier, not Matra again. Funny little French team. No, major corporation, Renault. They were rather keen on turbo technology. They'd used it in rallying, obviously, with the Turbo 2, and they'd also used it in a number of production cars. And they decided they wanted to go racing in Formula 1. Initially, obviously, it had its problem trying to squeeze oodles of power out of a 1500cc motor, but it caught the eye of Ferrari, who also started to develop a turbo engine, which heralded the demise of the amazing Cosworth DFV, sadly. Yes, enter stage left major corporations, major car manufacturers. BMW, Honda were back, amongst others. And between that and Mr. Ecclestone and his circus, that's really where the money kicked in, pretty much changing the sport forever. There were a few brave enough to enter the fray, like Jackie Stewart and Paul Stewart, who set up Stewart Racing, which of course then got kind of taken over by Jaguar and eventually became Red Bull. And the more this situation accelerated, the more my interest dwindled, to be honest. And not just from the racing point of view, from the spectator point of view, more and more expensive. Less and less access to the actual people involved. I remember when I was a kid wandering around the paddock and the pits, and you can actually talk to people. I talked to my all-time hero, Ronnie Peterson, because he was there sitting in his garage while the mechanics fiddled around with the car. Even viewing at the circuits became less enjoyable, more fencing, etc, etc. Admittedly, a lot of which was in the name of safety. I myself in the 70s had experienced a front wheel coming off one of the cars, bouncing clean over the fence, narrowly missing the crowd. But yeah, that was kind of it for me, honestly. Mid-90s, I'd already kind of lost interest. Then there was the whole pit stop, changing the format of the racing to apparently make it more exciting. A leaf out of NASCAR's book, apparently. Cars got bigger, circuits didn't at the time, and therefore there was less and less action on the track in terms of overtaking, and races were won or lost in the pits. The pit crew exploded from a couple of guys with spanners to, 10 people with refueling rigs and blah blah blah, all of which meant that the pit crew had to be able to change all 4 tyres and refuel in like 10 seconds. And then when they stopped the refueling fiasco because of accidents in the pits with fire, pit stops were down to 3 seconds to change all 4 wheels, and now they're even less than that, which is actually phenomenal, I agree. But if that's what it's all about, then let's not bother going around the track. Let's just see who can change the tyres quickest. Am I being cynical? I guess so. So I don't know whether you agree or disagree. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. While you're down there, if you thought the video was any good, give it a thumbs up, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, encourage others to watch my rambling.